You will often hear the Negro say that white people bring drugs and guns into the Negro community, and that because white people bring drugs and guns into the Negro community, they have to sell drugs and use guns. However, there is something else that white people bring into the Afro American Negro community. What is that item? That's books. See? Books. But when you bring books into the Afro American Negro community, the Negro won't touch them. In fact, whenever you bring a book in front of a Negro, he's the first to run away from it. How can I say this? Because I have done multiple videos about books, and this Negro pretty much runs away from them. These are some of the least watched videos out of all the videos I have produced here on YouTube and on social media. When it comes down to books, books are like the Negro's kryptonite. If you want to get rid of Negroes, the first thing you can do is just present a book. It seems like the Negro, whenever he sees a book, he's the first one to run away. Why? Because I think he's afraid of information. And he's afraid of information that debunks many of the dysfunctional ideas that he has learned from people in his community. Whenever you present this Negro with a book, he's, again, the first one to run away from it, the first one to hide from it. And he won't give you, and he won't even try to read it. For him, he thinks reading is a white concept. Unfortunately, historically, Afro Americans have always been readers, and they have always used knowledge to increase their education so that they can build their communities. But today's modern day Negro, he won't go near a book. He or she just won't touch a book. Again, books are the Negro kryptonite. You put a book in the room, you will see Negroes scatter like a bunch of roaches. Because the Negro, for some reason, he's averse to books. And people bring books into his community all the time. Yet, this Negro, whenever he sees a book or is near a book, it will make him scatter. It will make a whole room full of Negroes run away as fast as they can. I mean, if you want, you don't need guns. You don't, drugs. They'll talk about how they can sell guns and how they'll sell drugs. But when it comes down to books, the Negro won't even think about buying them. I have priced books as low as 99 cents, yet this Negro won't touch them. This is the sad state of affairs, regarding this Negro. He uses the excuse saying that he has to sell drugs and he has to use guns that are brought in his community. But the very books that are brought to his community that are filled with knowledge that will help him, he won't touch with a 10-foot pole. And this is what is really, mind-boggling and baffling, because the information in one book can take him to the next level. The information on one website with information can take him to the next level. Yet this Negro won't go near any type of information. It's one of those things that just I find to be quite astonishing and downright baffling. He'll take the guns and use them to kill his own black person, other black people. He'll take the drugs and use them to kill his brothers and sisters. But if you give him a book, he won't read it or share it or the knowledge that's in it with other black people. That's what's just so, mind-boggling to me. He'll blame white people for bringing drugs and guns into his community, but when those same white people bring books into his community, this Negro, he won't touch them. He won't go near them. And I still, can't figure out why the Negro won't read. And the whole thing is that if he read, then he could probably, do things like build businesses, build infrastructure, and, learn something about his own history and his own culture that would take him to the next level. And then there is, this group of pro-blacks who will say, well, all the information in all the books that white people give us is distorted. Well, you know what? And the whole thing is that it was crazy about that argument is you have black people like myself who produce books like these, and then you'll tell me that the information is, quote unquote, not black enough. And this is why I say, many of these Negroes, they run in a circular, illogical pattern, where it's a vicious cycle. You'll say that the information comes from a white source, and then you won't use that as an excuse not to read. And then when a black person like myself gets the exact same information and puts it in a book, you tell me it's not black enough. And you realize, with this Negro, there has to be some type of mental disorder regarding his condition, because he'll sit there and he'll talk about how he has to sell the drugs, how he has to use the guns to kill his own people, how he has to sell the drugs to kill his own people and poison his own people. Yet, when somebody gives him a book to enrich his life and enrich himself, he won't take the time to read it. He'll sit there and say, I don't have no time to read this. I don't really want." It's like, you can't win with this Negro. I mean, the tools are right in front of him for him to build his own Afro American community. The tools are in front of him to take his life to the next level. Yet he won't use the tools. Instead, he just sits there and tells you that he can't use them. And that's why I say there has to be some sort of mental disorder, regarding this Negro. He'll take the guns and use them to kill other black people. He'll take the drugs and use them to sell to poison other black people. But you present this Negro with a book, and he won't spend the money to buy it or try to read it. That's what's so backwards, regarding this Afro American Negro. He'll sit there. I mean, the book has more knowledge in it, than anything out here. And the easiest way to hide information, this is what I learned from a movie about 5 or 10 years ago. It's called How You Like Me Now. One of the lines he said was, if you wanted to hide information from a black person, the easiest place to do it is in between the pages of a book. Because a Negro, again, books are like Negro kryptonite. The fastest way you want to get rid of a Negro or a group of Negroes is to introduce a book to them. They will walk away faster than greased lightning. And if you really want to gentrify a neighborhood, hey, open up a couple of bookstores. You'll get rid of those Negroes faster than anything. Because it seems like, you present Negroes with books, and they're the first ones to head for the door. They're the first ones to head for the exit. They're the first ones to find some excuse to not read and to, open up their mind and enrich their minds. And this is what's really so sad about it is, because the Negro does not read, he becomes, targeted by predators who exploit him, like your Negro pastors, like your civil rights dinosaurs, like your civil rights activists, and like all these other, people who take the same information they get from books and then use it to exploit the Negro masses. And the Negro, never thinks, no, let me go read this for myself so I can get my own, information, and so I can see how these facts line up. If this Negro just took 5 or 10 minutes a day, to read, his mind would open up and he would start to see things from a different perspective. And he wouldn't be exploited, again, by people like your Negro pastors, like your civil rights dinosaurs, like your civil rights activists, and even your white liberal politicians. Because if he read something about the background regarding these things, maybe he would have the information to make informed decisions and informed choices and get a better perspective of what black should mean to him, and he wouldn't be taking information from somebody else. He would be going to get his own sources, his own information, and, going out and finding out things for himself. But this Negro, you put a book in front of him, again, it's like kryptonite. And I'll keep saying that. I know people hate me repeating, but I'm going to say it time and time again, because this is what I've seen from my own personal experience as a guy who sells books and, has made an effort to try to sell books to the Afro American community, who has gone out to book fairs and has been completely ignored. When you bring books to the Negro is the first one to run away from them. And it's like kryptonite. You want to get rid of a room full of Negroes or a gaggle of Negroes, you want to get them away from your street corner, you want to get them out in front of your store. Hey, start talking about books. You get rid of every Negro in the room. It's just the easiest thing to do. You start talking about books. I mean, I've seen it here when I put videos regarding books. It doesn't get the responses of up to about 500, 600 hits. The videos that I do about black people and black issues, those get 500, 600 hits. But the videos about books, those are still in the double digits. And it clearly shows me, people complain about, all these other ills, but if you read the books, it would be helping you towards solving the problems regarding the other ills. Because when you have knowledge, you have power. But the Negro, he doesn't understand that in order to use the tools to get power, you have to read to get the knowledge. And this is just something that goes over most Negroes' heads because they're afraid of books, and sadly, they shouldn't be afraid of books. Again, a book is a tool just like any other tool out here, and the information in a book can take your life to the next level and enrich it. Because I have used books and web pages and numerous, reading throughout my life, and I've used that information to move my life forward. Um, and the Negro could use it the same way. But the sad part is, the Negro is so afraid of reading, and some of them, I don't even think some of them can read. They're afraid of these books when the book is the greatest tool of all. The book is where all the information is that's going to help you, move your life forward and take it to the next level. And the sad part is, many of the Negroes out here, they devalue books, they minimize books, they don't want anything to do with books, and they wind up, cutting themselves off before they can even get started. That's all I have to say for this video. I have a lot of great books on Amazon.com. You can click the link in the description box to pick up some of them. All of them have great information. Some of them are fiction, some of them are nonfiction. All of them will move your life forward, and they're all positive stories about the African American experience, and the nonfiction is positive information that will help enrich your life. Again, that's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.